Have you ever felt like you weren't being true to yourself? Like you were living a life that wasn't yours, wearing a mask to fit in, and pretending to be someone you weren't just to make the world around you happy? That was my life for a long time. It's hard to admit, but there was a time when I became someone else, and in the process, I lost myself. My name is Ella, and this is the story of how I became someone else, someone I didn't even recognize, someone I didn't want to be, and how I found my way back to who I really am. It all started when I was a teenager. Growing up, I was always the shy, quiet girl. I had a small circle of friends, and I was perfectly content with that. But as I got older, I began to notice something. I started to feel like I wasn't enough. I wasn't popular like the other girls at school, and I didn't have the same confidence that they did. I started to see all the ways in which I didn't measure up, and it made me feel invisible. I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to feel like I mattered. So I started changing. Little by little, I began to modify the way I acted, the way I dressed, and even the way I spoke. I thought that if I could just fit in, if I could just become like the popular girls, then I would be happy. I would finally feel like I belonged. At first, it was just small changes. Wearing clothes that I thought would make me look cooler, laughing at jokes that I didn't really find funny, trying to talk like the girls in my class. But over time, those small changes became bigger, and I started to lose sight of who I really was. I wasn't Ella anymore. I was whoever I thought people wanted me to be. I started hanging out with the in crowd. They were the girls everyone admired, the ones with the perfect hair, the perfect outfits, the perfect lives. I envied them, and I thought that by being around them, I would somehow become like them. I tried so hard to fit in that I forgot who I was in the process. I started saying yes to things I never would have before, doing things I didn't believe in, just so I could stay in the group. I wanted their approval, their validation, but the more I tried to become someone else, the more empty I felt inside. I had everything I thought I wanted: friends, popularity, attention, but I was miserable. I was living a lie. The turning point came one night during a party at school. It was one of those parties where everyone was drinking, and the music was so loud you could barely hear yourself think. I was surrounded by people, but I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my life. I was pretending to be someone I wasn't, laughing at jokes I didn't find funny, smiling when I wanted to cry. But then something happened that made me stop and think. I was standing in the corner of the room, holding a cup in my hand, when I noticed a girl sitting by herself on the couch. She was quiet, just like I used to be, and she looked so out of place in a room full of people trying so hard to fit in. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. She reminded me of who I used to be, the girl who didn't need to fit in, the girl who was comfortable in her own skin. I walked over to her and introduced myself. Her name was Sarah, and we hit it off immediately. She wasn't like the others at the party. She wasn't pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was just herself, and she didn't care what anyone thought about it. She had this quiet confidence that I admired, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was talking to someone who truly understood me. We spent the rest of the night talking, and I couldn't help but realize how much I had changed. I had become someone else, someone who didn't even feel like me anymore. I had spent so much time trying to fit into a mold that wasn't mine, trying to be someone I wasn't, that I had lost the essence of who I really was. As the night wore on, I left the party early, my mind racing. I couldn't stop thinking about what Sarah had said. She talked about how important it was to be true to yourself, to embrace who you are, flaws and all. She told me that the people who mattered would love you for who you really are, not for the person you pretended to be. And in that moment, I realized that she was right. The next day, I decided to take a hard look at myself. I didn't like the person I had become. I didn't like the way I had changed to fit in with people who didn't really care about me. I had been so focused on being someone else that I had forgotten what it felt like to just be myself. So, I made a decision. I was going to stop pretending. I was going to stop being someone I wasn't. And I was going to start being the person I had always wanted to be. The real me. It wasn't easy. I had spent so many years trying to fit in that it felt strange at first to just be myself. I had to let go of the friends I had made by pretending to be someone I wasn't. I had to distance myself from the people who didn't really understand me, and it hurt. It hurt to realize that the people I had tried so hard to please weren't the ones who would support me for who I really was. But as I started to embrace my true self, something amazing happened. I started to feel lighter, freer. I realized that I didn't need anyone's approval to be happy. I didn't need to change myself to be liked. The people who truly cared about me would love me for who I was, and the rest didn't matter. Slowly, I started to build new friendships, the kind of friendships where I didn't have to pretend to be someone I wasn't. I found people who appreciated me for my quirks, for my kindness, for the things that made me unique. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged, not because I was pretending to be someone else, but because I was just being myself. It wasn't always easy to let go of the fear of rejection, the fear that I wasn't enough. But as I grew older, I learned that being true to yourself is the only way to find real happiness. It's the only way to attract the people who will truly appreciate you for who you are. Now, when I look back at that girl who tried so hard to be someone else, I don't recognize her. She's a distant memory, a reminder of the person I never want to be again. I'm not perfect, and I don't have everything figured out. But I'm finally comfortable in my own skin, and I'm learning to embrace the parts of myself that I used to hide. The truth is, the hardest person to become is the person you were always meant to be. It's easy to fall into the trap of pretending, of becoming someone else to fit in. But it takes courage to stand up and say, "This is me." Take it or leave it. And in the end, the people who matter will take it. They'll accept you for exactly who you are. So that's my story. The story of how I became someone else and how I found my way back to who I truly am. It's a reminder that no matter how lost we feel, there's always a way back to ourselves. And no matter how hard it gets, we're never too far gone to rediscover who we really are.